Hi, guys, and welcome back to the KingDumb podcast. If you are new here, I am your host, KingBullet, and on this podcast, I talk about anything and everything that I find to be interesting, a thing of intrigue, or I just feel like talking about. Uh, we have a primary focus on like content creation and probably space because I'm a huge space nerd, but I talk about pretty much anything and everything that I find to be interesting. And today, I'm gonna talk about something that is infuriating for a lot of people, specifically content creators, and that is the current state of the DMCA, but also why companies are using video game music instead of different bands for music whenever promoting certain things. So to just jump right into it, what is DMCA? What does it mean? So, the DMCA is the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, which essentially means it's a copyright infringement policy, right? If something or someone uses some kind of logo or sound or whatever that is not properly licensed or public domain, then they are hit with a DMCA strike or a flag and they have to do something about it. And this is something that is exceptionally annoying whenever it comes to content creation because for a lot of people, for a lot of things, whenever you're starting this journey, like eventually at some point, if you're just, especially if you're just talking or if you're just kind of relaxing and playing video games or something like that, and it's not really high action, there's going to be like dead moments where there's not much going on. There's no talking. There's no sounds really going on, right? And so content creators are infamous for trying to fill in those gaps by having like music quietly play in the background. You might have a stream going, they're just hanging out, and then all you hear is the streamer goes silent, and it's like YMCA, gonna say it to the YMCA. It's something. It's probably not the YMCA, let's be honest, but it's probably something along those lines, right? And so it's very irritating that whenever the content creators are really just trying to fill in the gaps, and it's usually not something that's a prominent thing on the stream, they end up getting hit with this flag of the DMCA. Now, so what does it mean to get flagged for DMCA? Well, there's actually a couple different ways to look at it. First, if we go to Twitch, Twitch recently did a massive DMCA like policy thing and like did a whole bunch of this crazy stuff. But if your stream is claimed or like if something you used in your stream was not allowed to be used and the people who own the rights for it want to be as big of a poop head as they want, you can get actually copyright striked. And what that means is three strikes and you're out. Your account is banned. No questions asked. So if you're over here and you're listening to the YMCA, you get a copyright strike, and then you continue listening to the YMCA and you keep getting these copyright strikes, well, guess what? After three, you're gone. Your account is banned. There's no redeeming your account. And so now people stopped really like using music for alerts and stuff like that, right? Like for a long time, people were using alerts for their uh music for their alerts, right? So if someone would follow the stream, for the longest time, I had oh my god, what's their name? LMFAO, where it was like shake that beep 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 beep, and like my alert was Ace Ventura. Oh my god, who plays Ace Ventura? I know his name, but I can't think of it. Jim Carrey, that's the name. Jim Carrey in his tutu in Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, where he's like doing a little dance outside of the psych ward kind of deal, right? And I had like shake that beep 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 beep, that kind of song, right? I can't actually play the song because copyright, but I had that play, and it was actually really really fun. A lot of people actually really enjoyed that because uh like that was what I had whenever I was over on Mixer, and it was kind of funny because on streams that my stream was just popping off and like going crazy, all you would hear is shake that beep 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 beep, shake that beep 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 beep. And like Jim Carrey, man, he must have gotten tired. He was dancing all the time. It was funny. um I had things for whenever people would subscribe, and so like you would hear the shake that go off, and then there would be a subscription notification, and it was like a dance party just constantly happening whenever my streams were popping off. And it was like, oh yeah, how many times are we gonna shake that? Let's go. It's fun, and people love doing that's a thing that a lot of people do for their content, even to this day, at the risk of being hit with these copyright claims and copyright strikes. And some people are like, well, they'll never actually strike me. I'm too small of a streamer or too small of a content creator. Well, I don't know how to tell you this. They probably will eventually. They will. But so on Twitch, well, in a live sense, it was usually background noise, or like I said, the alerts system, something along those lines that would create the DMCA issues. Then there's also the people who play like Beat Saber, or the newer game Ragnarok, or they'll play like Guitar Hero, Rock Band, whatever, and they get copyright claimed for the music that is played in them as well. But that's not as common because usually they don't save their VODs for those, which the saved VOD seems to be VOD is video of the day, by the way. The saved VOD seems to be the biggest issue and the one that's picked up the most. So like I know a lot of people who don't save their VODs because they're listening to music, and if they save it then they'll get copyright striked. Um but anyway, getting back on topic, I am on a tangent run today. Good lord. I apologize. I hope you guys can follow along with my brain because it's going woo. So that's what kind of like the base ground, the basic understanding of Twitch copyright stuff. Now, the other main platform, YouTube. YouTube has some copyright issues itself. And I'm only going to really talk about Twitch and YouTube because let's be honest, there's really no other platform out there right now. Kick, get out of here. They don't even have copyright issues. If you want to hear about it, go check out episode 6. I talk about the Kick platform and I go into depth about how the DMCA is going to hit them and it's probably going to shut the platform down. And then you got like Facebook gaming, but Facebook gaming is kind of dying off as well. Just for a really quick, like how Facebook gaming took care of it. Um, what they ended up doing is if you played music in any regard, or if there was music playing at all, your stream was eventually just shut off. Like it wasn't muting the VOD or anything like that. It was just they turned your stream off and then deleted it. And it was so poorly done that I was listening to AW Rebels like their song of the days, and even AW Rebels who made the songs would listen to it during their streams and they would get taken down. It was terrible. Their system by no means was even remotely good, right? So, Facebook gaming, Kick, those of you who are audio only, that was me just making a fart noise with my mouth. It's not your speakers. Relax. Your speakers are okay. Maybe. That one wasn't me, or was it? Who knows? Anyway, back to the point. So, YouTube, what they generally do is they will do a copyright claim and then they do a revenue share on the copyright claim content, right? So, say someone is listening to some kind of music. They're listening to LMFAO, for example, and then their video or their VOD after the stream is done ends up revenue sharing with the people who own the rights to the LMFAO songs, right? So very rarely does it actually affect your account, but there are some cases that it does really affect your account. So if there's music that is played that a company owns the rights to, they will actually claim your video and they will restrict it. And what restricting it means is it will only be available in certain regions for certain people for whatever. Like they put make it so not everybody can watch your video, right? And the annoying thing with that is if you challenge the claim and the claim goes in their favor, there's two ways that you can challenge it. You can make it so that the challenge is like it the when you challenge copyright claims in general, it's up to 30 days that the revenue is held. It doesn't go to any party in the claim. It is held by YouTube, and then whichever party ends up winning the dispute will end up getting the revenue that was generated by that video. Well, for the ones that are claimed and restricted, you can instantly appeal it. And if you instantly appeal it and it turns into their favor, you actually get a copyright strike. If you go through the 30-day dispute process, then it will only count as a copyright claim. And this is a big difference in something that a lot of people don't understand. Whereas a copyright claim is not a copyright strike. A strike is like over on Twitch, 3 strikes, you're out. It's much harder to generate a copyright strike on YouTube than it is on Twitch. As weird as it sounds, it's much harder to do so because a lot of the people, a lot of the companies are fine with revenue sharing because normally they get the lion's share. You know, um, there's times where it's revenue sharing and they're getting like 90 to 95% of the revenue and you're getting very little, right? Um, so that's kind of the difference maker, right? Now, now that we have a general understanding of DMCA and what it means, a lot of the DMCA cases are from record companies who are like, oh, you played my music. Well, I own the rights to this music, so you're gonna pay me to have the rights to this music. And it's only the record companies. And that's the point that I want to get to, is that it's only the record companies that have a problem with people using music from bands in their streams, right? For example, I don't remember his actual name, but the lead singer of the band Falling in Reverse was live on Twitch one day and he was playing his own music, his band's music, and he got copyright claimed for his own music. And he actually got in trouble for playing his own music, which is wild. Dragon Force, they had the same thing happen. Twitch literally had at one of their live events Metallica, like the actual band Metallica, performing, and it was front page for Twitch. The people who were there live got to hear the music. The people who were watching it on the platform, Twitch's platform, Twitch's channel, they heard different music than what was being played. They heard open source copyright free music or silence. So it's not even like it's Twitch making all of these issues. It's literally the record companies. And anytime I've ever seen people like talk to bands or band members or ask people about it, like people would ask the bands whenever they were live on Twitch, like, hey, why can't we use your music? The band members are usually like, I would love that because that's free marketing for them, right? So to give you kind of an example, if I'm listening to, we'll say, Five Finger Death Punch, and it's just in the background, and all you hear is Five Finger Death Punch going off, and someone picks up on it, and they're like, "Man, hey, that's actually a really good song. Who is that?" And you're like, "Oh, it's this song by Five Finger Death Punch." They're like, "Oh man, I gotta go check them out," and so they get new viewers, well, not viewers, new listeners, because they're hearing the music on their stream. And it's not like it's the prominent thing. Now, if it's like Beat Saber, Guitar Hero, Rock Band, like I can see the record companies not wanting that because that's the primary use of entertainment. But for like just a general run of the mill kind of deal, it would be like I'm talking right now, and then you would hear the music in the background going, like I did before with the YMCA, gonna say it to the Y, and then you don't really hear it all that much, right? And that's the big thing. Like it's only white noise. I should explain white noise for people because you might not know what I'm talking about, or like what I'm the 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 definition, I guess you could say, is white noise. And what a white noise refers to is pretty much a noise, or sound that is kind of audible, but it's not like the most prominent thing. Like I would say, for example, a good example is like if you had an older TV and you had like that little static sound that would happen on the TV because it wasn't quite tuned to the channel as good as it could be, and you have really quiet in the background, but meanwhile you have, no, I'm Patrick. And whenever he's not, I don't even think the mic picked it up there, but like it's just a little staticky sound in the background, just a sound that it's there, but you kind of just tune it out, and then like whenever something happens in it, you're like, oh yeah, I forgot that was there. If you turn it off, you're like, wow, yeah, I really noticed a difference. A lot of people use like those 24/7 rain channels for white noise, like when they're sleeping. Like my girlfriend and I use that, or like for just something in the background while they're studying or working on something, just so that it's not just dead quiet, right? That's white noise. And so content creators will usually have music be white noise, right? It's not something that people are really paying that much attention to until you hear like this amazing guitar solo or just the drums go boom, and people are like, wow, that was really good. What song is that? And so it was giving them like free publicity. Because if you think about it, for me, for example, like during my prime on Mixer, I had like 40, 50 people in my stream pretty much every single stream. So if I was listening to a song, like say I was listening to the band Skillet, and you got Skillet playing in the background, just real quiet, like nothing really crazy going on, and then people are like, you're listening to this band. This is a really good band. Who is it? You're like, oh, it's Skillet. And then I've actually had people like one of the bands that I've actually opened people up to, and so much so that they've actually bought albums and merch and stuff like that from, is Poets of the Fall. They're a Swedish band, and they haven't really come to the United States per se. They only really started getting known in the United States because they made the music for the game Alan Wake. And so they didn't ever really rise in popularity, but I started listening to some of their music on stream at one point back before DMCA became a major issue in the content creator industry. And I actually had people who were opened up to this band, and the band ended up becoming worldwide, even though they may not have been more than just Sweden, right? Like, even though that their music was in the game, like, there's a lot of times where the game music is like, oh yeah, it's game music, it was pretty good, but you never actually like try to find who it was and like listen to it outside of it. Like, there's some people who love soundtracks and stuff like that, but even to this day, like, game developers, game companies don't actually use band music as much anymore because of the DMCA issues and how crazy it is. Uh, don't forget to hydrate, everybody. Get yourself some liquids into your mouth in a non-dirty way, or in a dirty way if you really want. But I would pause the episode so that you can enjoy it fully. And by it, I mean my episode, while you're worrying about your liquids in your mouth. That's that. That's my content in a nutshell, everybody. Not the liquids in the mouth. The weird things said. All right, I'm just gonna go back to the DMCA. So Alan Wake was in the or Poets of the Fall was in the game Alan Wake. Nobody really paid attention as much to the song. And so even though it was a very popular game over in the United States, not a lot of people really started listening to Poets of the Fall. Like, yeah, sure, there were people like myself who listened to it and was like, man, this is a banger. I want to listen to this more. And started listening more and more. But it wasn't a huge influx like it could have been, right? Um, but I started listening to it, and I had people who were like hanging out in the stream. They were like, who is this? They're really good. And I told them, and they went out and they listened to their music on like Spotify or YouTube or whatever. Ended up buying albums, like actual like disc albums from them, got like merch and everything else. And like, there's a couple people that I know that are like, listen, if they ever come to the United States, I'm getting a ticket. Like, they want to see them live, right? And so like it exposed this band that would otherwise not have made any kind of real mark on the western front of the world, the United States front of the world, but it started opening people up to that. And that's kind of how content, in any regard, music is included in this, really grows the best. The more that people are talking about it, the more that people are like, hey, check this out, this is really cool, the more that people actually will like start gravitating towards it. And so, because people were talking about Poets of the Fall, because I was listening to it, you ended up having more and more people like, that, that is pretty good, and so it kind of expanded and grew. And I'm not saying that I gave them a huge audience or anything over here, but I definitely helped to generate revenue, even though I was utilizing their music for background noise. And knowing now about copyright, I would normally have to buy a license to be able to listen to it, and the license is usually through the record company that they're through, not the band itself. And so the band gets a portion of that license. I may not have bought that license, but I at least started generating some revenue that would have come about if I would have bought the license, right? So it wasn't necessarily a big win, but it was still something that generated some momentum, some movement. And so I like, the bands want people to listen to their music, and like the band members are like, oh man, you listen to my music on stream, that's awesome, thanks dude. And then the record companies are like, but my $3, pay up. And I say $3 because a lot of the times, if they're copyright claiming smaller YouTubers and streamers, they're only getting pennies. Like they're not getting a lot of money. I had copyright claims on my Twitch stream at one point when DMCA started to become a big problem, and like they were claiming all of the revenue post stream, and I think they claimed a whole 10 cents. Like it's not like they were claiming a lot, and there's sometimes issues with false copyright claims on YouTube. I'm going to get to that here very soon, where they'll copyright claim, and even if I don't dispute it, they'd get maybe like 30, 40 cents. Like they're not getting hundreds of dollars out of these claims, but they're still claiming, right? Now, if it's a bigger content creator, sure, I could maybe see it, but the bigger content creator is going to be a bigger avenue for more people to listen. And so I think in some regards there is a world where there could be a content creator license from these record companies where maybe they're not paying the full license amount, but it allows them to play the music as like background noise. Like it can only be a certain, it can't be a main focus of the stream, and that license protects you from having to deal with a whole bunch of other stuff that's going on, but you're also able to listen, and like you're paying them, and so you're I don't know the exact amount. Some people who do like DJing and remixes and stuff like that on stream have gotten the licenses before, but I want to say it's probably like a couple $100 a year, maybe like $1,000 or $2,000 a year or something like that. You cut that in half, whatever it is, or cut a portion of it out, and the exposure that the bands and the ultimately the record company is going to get, plus the lower cost of the content creator license, like, and you would have, there would have to be some kind of restriction, like you have to have at least, like 25 concurrent viewers on your main content platform to be able to utilize it or whatever, and it could only be for live streams or what have you. But like something like that would actually probably be super beneficial for everybody, right? Because streamers do it to fill in the dead spots in their streams where there's nothing really going on audio wise, and the record company is getting a foreshore money, but they're also going to be able to get a little bit of money because it's, like they're going to have more people listening to the music and maybe asking about the music and getting on to it and whatever. I don't know. There's a world where both of that happens, but I don't see record companies ever releasing their grip. But anyway, so getting back on track here, DMCA, big problem. A lot of people hate it. Affected by it, pretty much every content creator. What did they use? Like 10 seconds of music, and then it's boom, claimed. For YouTube. Now, this is where things are going to get moments, okay? And that's not a good that's a that's bad, On YouTube specifically, and I'm using YouTube as the main point of this example because that is where I see it most and where it happens to me the most. There are people who will get like maybe we'll make it super simple. So Stardew Valley. A lot of people know Stardew Valley. A lot of people have heard of, played, or seen Stardew Valley played at some point. It is a very popular game. Fun fact, it's an indie game. Referencing my last episode. If you haven't listened to it, go check it out. Talk about the game industry, indie games. Anyway, there was a person, or there was something. I don't even know if it was one person or a company or what, but they took the fall soundtrack, like the soundtrack that plays in the fall for Stardew Valley, and they kept like the first 10 seconds of it the same, and then for the rest of it, they remixed. So there was a whole bunch of different remixes, and like it wasn't the Stardew Valley fall soundtrack, but only the beginning stayed the same. And a lot of people will do this, and then because that 10 seconds ends up getting flagged by YouTube's system as, oh, hey, you have something in this system that has that same 10 seconds, they're able to copyright claim anybody who plays Stardew Valley, and they're in the fall season. And it was a huge, huge thing for a long time for Stardew Valley players, where they would put up an episode, or they would be streaming and it would get claimed, and they're like, this is the Stardew Valley soundtrack. The developer even said you can use his music, Stardew Valley music, even if you're not playing Stardew Valley. Like, there's no copyright on it at all. It's game music. Everybody can enjoy it how they wish. But there are people who take it and remix it and keep a small portion of it the same, so that way they can copyright claim. And it's annoying because a lot of people will not dispute the claim. They'll see that it's been claimed and they'll be like, oh God, it's claimed. All right. And then they just try to either redo the video or redo something. They don't dispute it at all, or they just leave it. And so the person who claims it ends up getting the revenue from that video. But if you dispute it, you end up going into this process, and you go in, it's like, this person has no rights to the music or whatever, blah blah blah. They aren't supposed to be doing this, blah blah blah, whatever, right? And 9 times out of 10, those claims will sit there for the entire 30-day dispute. And then on the last day, YouTube will look at it and be like, okay, is this dispute actually a thing? Yes? All right, get rid of it. And it's a very obnoxious process. And for someone whose YouTube channel is my size right now, it doesn't really affect me as much as some other people. Like, for example, the Stardew Valley fall stuff. There were a lot of big streamers who were doing Stardew Valley, and they had to wait to bring out their episode of Stardew Valley Fall because of the claims that kept happening on it. And they were generating like two, three, four, $500 off of this episode that they had to wait to bring out because of these claims, right? So it was really, really, really bad. And the it's everywhere. It's not just video game soundtracks. Like, one day I was doing working on stuff, trying to get some stuff done kind of day, and I did like a classical music playlist. I was listening to like Bach and Beethoven and stuff like that. And this wasn't too long ago. As of recording this, this was like maybe 2.5 weeks ago, give or take. Even though I used all uh, public domain music, which, for those of you who don't know, a copyright falls off 50 years after the death of the last band member of the band. So, for example, since Beethoven and Bach were the only composers for their own music, then it went the copyright went away 50 years after their death date. Um, so for Michael Jackson, his music, the band members for Michael Jackson must be dead, which sounds very, very horrible to say, but like every band member at the time of the band's like not producing music anymore, I guess. So if you had a drummer, a guitarist, rhythm guitarist, and a bass, and then and the singer dies, and the band doesn't make any more music, you have 50 years after the last band member that was there whenever you stop making music. So say the singer, bassist, drummer, guitarist all die, and then you just have the rhythm guitarist. The copyright will still stand as long as that rhythm guitarist is alive. As soon as he dies, he or she dies, 50 years later, the music will become public domain. That is my understanding of copyright in public domain as it stands. So, all classical music is public domain at this point. There's absolutely no classical music, like the big time composers, classical music, that has any kind of copyright. My stream that I ended up, excuse me, oh, nah, something stuck in my throat. My stream that I ended up doing all this classical music on ended up getting claimed 36 times. 36 different claims for music that was 10 seconds of the original track and then remix. And some of them are even the we're not going to allow this to be viewed in certain areas, and if you try to appeal this right away and it turns out to not be the case, and you're getting that copyright claim, it ends up becoming a copyright strike. Yeah, it was that bad. But there's 36. Two of them have already fallen off. As of recording this episode, there's still 13 days for the disputes, and there's 34 disputes that are just sitting there and waiting for the people to release their claim on it. I even made the video private because of how many claims were on it. But for example, like I said, I only played Bach and Beethoven. Some of the names were Stephen, Harmonia, Ikuyo, Ikuyo, Lucy, Ikuyo, Stephen, Choir of Gonville and Caius College, Cambridge, Ramen. Like, these are the names of the people who are claiming. Benjamin, Melos Ensemble. Ain't nobody named Bach, Johann Sebastian Bach, or Ludwig van Beethoven. I can tell you that much. But the claims will stay probably until the final day, and then they will be released. Now, again, for me, it doesn't make that big of a difference. I don't make a lot of money off of ad revenue right now. But the fact that this is a thing that can happen is ridiculous. And it happens all the time. For pretty much every content creator, they are hit with something along these lines. So, and there's nothing that we can do about it. We just have to dispute it and then let it go. And then 30 days later, then that money will be attributed to your account, and then you'll get that next payout. So if you would have gotten $300, $400, $500, $600 from a video and it has a copyright claim and you dispute it, 30 days later, that's next month. You don't get it for that month's pay, you get it for the following month. So you're having $300, $400, $500, $600 less for your payment than you normally would. And that's a big chunk of money. Like, yeah, you get it a month later, but like, people need that money, that might be like someone's car payment or their rent or mortgage or something like that, for the people who rely on YouTube as their main source of income. But these people, they don't care, they just want free, easy money, right? And so it's a massive, massive issue in content creation in general. And it's gotten so bad that companies are actually starting to use video game music over band music. The DMCA, whether it's false claims, actual claims, whatever, the cost of these claims have begun to be so bad that I don't remember what it was, but like, there was a big premiere show happening for some kind of big event, and they used the Doom music, the Doom soundtrack by Mick Gordon. Instead of doing like normal, because like for previous instances of it, they would use like a really metal, like heavy band, like going crazy and doing all this stuff. They ended up using game soundtracks, and more companies are adapting and starting to do that exact thing. They're doing these game soundtracks instead of actual bands, because it's just cheaper. It's open source, it's public domain essentially. You know, there's some game soundtracks. What was it? Fall Guys, for some time, they were gonna try to get it so that, they copyright claimed everybody who was playing their game because the music was copyrighted. They got rid of that with the quickness, I can tell you that much. But like, there's some companies that try to do stuff like that, but usually, or not companies, some game developers that try to do stuff like that, but 9 times out of 10, after they realize, oh, we made a mistake, they revert it, or the game just dies, like it doesn't survive at all. And so like these open source, you can play it wherever, however, music is providing the same entertainment value as band music, but it's cheaper because you don't have to pay rights for it. Like, I'm sure I'm partially wrong there. There's probably some sort of payment that bigger companies have to pay. Like for the event, they did the Doom soundtrack. I'm sure they probably had to pay Bethesda some money because it wasn't the Doom game. It wasn't video game oriented. It was a completely different thing. And so they paid Bethesda like, "Hey, we're going to use this, but you guys are cheaper than anywhere else," kind of deal. So I'm sure there is that, but it's not looking good as far as like actual bans in the online world because of this whole DMCA copyright nonsense that happens. It's just nobody wants to deal with it, so everybody just avoids it. And for a long time, like these musics, these bands would create this music and it would be awesome. Everybody would want to listen to it, and it was growing at a pretty good rate because of how many people were listening to it while on stream and stuff like that. But now it's like you only hear them live or on the radio, or like iHeartRadio or whatever, Spotify. I'm sorry, Spotify. I know. I'm on YouTube. It's okay. It's okay. I mentioned you. Shh. I'm gonna rub my mic and act like I'm rubbing Spotify. Anyway, um, people are listening to it on there, but that's it. Like, it's not used in, or the music is being used less and less in big events, in like in areas where normally it would generate a ridiculous amount of revenue. That's not the case anymore. And that's not good. I think DMCA could really benefit from a massive overhaul and a massive change. But it's tough to say. The record companies are gonna have to soak up some kind of cost, because I don't know about you guys, I don't really listen to the radio anymore. I generally will listen through like Spotify or YouTube Music, and even then, I don't really, because I don't listen to the radio, I'm not as exposed to new bands and new songs as I once was. And so I'm listening to my favorites more while discovering new ones less. And if I'm anything to go by as far as like the discoverability of new artists and new bands, that's going to start making it very difficult to be able to actually creates music that people listen to for long periods and that gets out to a bigger audience than maybe like a couple hundred or a couple thousand people. So, record companies got to figure it out. YouTube has got to fix this copyright claim nonsense that happens on there. Twitch, just stop being Twitch about it. All right, I'm just Twitch is Twitch. There's not much else to say about that. But anyways, that's gonna do it for this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Um, Let me know what you thought. Um, as always, make sure you like, subscribe, follow, whatever it is on any platform that you're listening to this on. A new episode comes out every Wednesday, or I'm trying to get one out every Wednesday. So make sure you have your notification things on for whenever it comes out in case you miss it or forget. And thank you again so much for watching and or listening, and I will see all of you guys next time. Bye guys!